Mom is the true daughter in the dead person literature genre. My uncles all said she was a liar, only faking illness and misery to gain sympathy. The fake daughter stole Mom's fiancé, caused her to have a child with an outside man, and then bitterly begged my uncles to forgive Mom. Mom hugged me tightly and silently agreed. Everyone thought the true and false heiress drama was already a thing of the past, until the year I turned 8, when my mother, in utter despair, climbed onto the rooftop and jumped, and I stood calmly behind her, murmuring, "If this is what you want, then so be it. My mom is the real heiress. I've known that since I was little. She's not as beautiful and elegant as my aunt, who can sing and dance and is always surrounded by people." When I was 5, I innocently asked my eldest uncle, "Why are auntie's hands so soft and white, but mom's hands are so rough, like a withered branch fallen to the ground?" My eldest uncle held me, scoffed, and glanced at my mother. "Because your mother is born to toil, she can't enjoy good fortune, and instead harms others." My mother's eyes reddened upon hearing this. Only later did I find out that the nanny working for the Smith family, out of jealousy, had switched my aunt and my mother. My mother was taken away by the nanny and forced to care for a worthless younger brother and a gambling-addicted father in the countryside. As an adult, she was nearly raped by her adoptive father and almost sold off to a 50-year-old man as a wife. My mother smashed her adoptive father's head and, armed with the secrets she had overheard, found her way back to the Smith family, but she didn't expect that turning around would lead to another hell. Because of Mom's phone call, my grandparents were in a car accident and died on the spot. My 2 uncles almost hated Mom to death. When I was 6, I pulled out a wad of change from my pocket and seriously told Mom, "Take these, let's leave this place." Mom froze, the corners of her eyes gradually turning red, suppressing the rising panic in my heart. I quickly added, "This is money I earned by doing homework and running errands for classmates, not their money, Mom. I won't spend their money." But Mom didn't take me away. She just hugged me tightly, her voice choked with sobs. "Listen to Mom, you can't leave here." Every day, she would pick me up from school and drop me off, her expression always so gentle. I naively thought that such a life wasn't bad. When I grew up, I would take Mom away from here, and I would never shed tears because of these people again. Until that day Mom walked me to school. George roughly pushed open the door of the Smith family, his eyes clouded and abnormally red. I stood in front of my mother, but he pushed me away. My mother, startled, quickly told the driver to take me to school. To comfort me, she tried to force a pale smile. "Don't be afraid, Mom will pick you up tonight." But I didn't wait for Mom. When I went back, I saw Aunt standing there weakly, her smile desolate and aggrieved. George stood gloomily blocking the doorway. "People like you never change, no matter how many chances you're given." I shouldn't have believed Nina's words and let you off the hook, Rose Smith. Why don't you just die? My eldest uncle looked at her with disappointment. "Rose Smith, Nancy is really unlucky to have a mother like you." Mom's clothes were disheveled, and despair flickered in her eyes. My heart ached with both pain and anger as I ran toward Mom. Mom seemed to sense something and turned to see me at the door, tears flooding her eyes like a broken dam. But she didn't reach out to hug me as she used to. Instead, she shook her head in agony, her eyes filled with guilt and resolve. The next second, Mom stumbled toward the balcony, pushed open the glass window, and leaped down. I saw the shape of Mom's lips clearly. She said, "I'm sorry, Nancy." My world seemed to suddenly spin out of control. Screams and shouts were incessant. My mother and I lived on the top floor of the villa, the 4th floor. The moment my mother fell, blood splattered, and she was like a broken butterfly, heading towards her predetermined end. When my eldest uncle finally reacted and came to pick me up, I was still standing there, stunned. He thought I was terrified, and his icy hands picked me up. He comforted me, and also tried to hide his own panic. "It's okay, it's okay. Mom has already been sent to the hospital. She did so many wrong things before and never tried to kill herself. Why did she overdo it this time?" I didn't speak. I just stared blankly at the spot where Mom jumped. They didn't know that in that instant, many things flashed through my mind. Some things suddenly became clear. It turns out my mom is the real heiress in dead person literature. I looked into the distance and murmured, "If this is what you want, then fine." My uncle looked at me, puzzled. "What are you looking at?" Meeting my expressionless face, he paused, averted his gaze, and even seemed a little guilty. "I'll have the nanny watch you these next few days. study hard, don't run around, okay? He didn't know that I was looking behind him. Mom stood there, tears streaming down her face. She was still wearing that white dress, only now stained red, and seemed to want to say something. Back in the room, I looked at Mom and smiled. Don't worry, Mom, I'll study hard. You should also watch carefully what happens to them. It's fine if you don't touch them, but what they owe you, they must repay. George and his two uncles had a huge argument. Nina and Rose Smith are both daughters of the Smith family. Why did you force her to die? The one filled with remorse was the eldest uncle. He seemed to have forgotten that he had made Mom die back then. George's eyes flickered, and he spoke coldly. If she hadn't seduced me, how would what happened later have occurred? Her death is her own fault. Nina Smith emerged with red-rimmed eyes, taking George's arm. We all saw what happened at the time. If it wasn't for my sister, how could something like that have happened? Even the servants at home said that my sister was the one who dragged Jack upstairs. Second uncle's expression softened, as if he wanted to say something. I ran downstairs clutching a diary, shoved Nina Smith hard, and tears fell in large drops. It wasn't Mom, I saw it. He was the one who wouldn't let go of Mom's hand. Nina Smith stumbled, barely managing to keep her composure. What do you know? So many people saw it. Don't spout nonsense here, kid. With that, she grabbed my wrist again and threw me to the nanny. I struggled with all my might, my diary hitting George's foot, while I kicked Nina Smith and sobbed. I want my mom, give me back my mom. Nina Smith was the pampered darling of the Smith family and had never been treated like this. She was about to reach for me, but a pair of hands stopped her. George casually opened a page and looked at me with a complicated expression, as if puzzled and frightened. Are you, my daughter? I was snatched from the nanny by George. As soon as my feet touched the ground, I quickly stepped forward to snatch the diary from George's hand. That's Mom's, give it to me. George didn't let go. Nina Smith, her eyes red, said incredulously, Jack, what are you talking about? Aren't we all perfectly clear about this bastard's origins? Rose Smith drugged you and you went into the wrong room, spending a night of passion with some man. Are you crazy? George clenched his fists, gritting his teeth, still playing these games even after death. Rose Smith's hand reached out, seemingly to grab the diary from my arms. I didn't hesitate to hit her. How dare she touch Mom's things? Holding the diary, I went upstairs, hearing George's murmurs behind me. What on earth is going on? As soon as I entered, the white figure by the bed looked at me with understanding. I couldn't hear my mother speak. I could only watch her still, lifeless face, quietly staying by my side. Later, George didn't come to the Smith family for several days. My uncles and aunt argued all day about how to arrange Mom's funeral. They found a new nanny to take care of my daily needs, and her gaze always held pity when she looked at me. At the parent-teacher conference, the teacher asked me, why didn't your mom come? Mom's in heaven. The teacher was silent for a long time. Just as she was about to call my uncle, George suddenly appeared at the door. I'm here for her parent-teacher conference. The teacher looked at George curiously. Are you the child's father? Before he could speak, I said coldly, no, he's my aunt's husband. George was speechless. He seemed to want to say something to me, but after some thought, he swallowed his words. I didn't care about him and returned to my seat, staring blankly at a spot in front of me. When I snapped out of it, the teacher was already looking at George with mild reproach. Nancy hasn't been doing well lately. Her mom used to pick her up every day when she was around. George pursed his lips. What kind of person was she? Rose Smith. I suddenly felt like laughing. People are so strange. They never believe what they see with their own eyes, only what others tell them. I heard the teacher say, Rose Smith is a very kind and gentle mother. George froze, then gave a strange smile. Kind, gentle, what a master of deception that woman is. The parent-teacher meeting lasted all morning. And in the afternoon, I got into George's car. He was going to take me back to the Smith family. For the first time, I ignored my mother's shaking head and refusal, calmly saying, not going there. George looked at me strangely but still had the driver follow the direction I pointed. We went to the supermarket and bought a lot of daily necessities using the card Mom gave me. We finally stopped at an orphanage. The director greeted us with a smile. Nancy, why didn't your mom come today? Before I could speak, George spoke first. She's busy today. I'm accompanying Nancy. The director gave him a meaningful look, seemingly misunderstanding something. She pulled George into a non-stop conversation about Mom. Rose is a good child. She brings Nancy here every month to visit the kids. These children here are just like her, all orphans. George frowned in disgust. She claims to be an orphan. Clearly, she's just greedy for wealth and status. Abandoning her adoptive parents to return to the Smith family, there's nothing she wouldn't do to climb the social ladder, let alone sleep her way to the top. The director's smile faded. Don't comment without knowing the full picture. Hasn't anyone taught you that, Mr. George? Her attitude was aggressive, her eyes fixed on George, and her voice a little agitated. If Rose hadn't gone to secure funding for these children 8 years ago, how would she have encountered such a thing? George keenly grasped the key point, his lips trembling. 8 years ago. I stared at him intently. Bitch, not a single word of concern in 8 years, and now you're putting on an act. Rose is a good girl, and so is Nancy. What happened back then was all that drunk man's fault, though I don't understand why Rose didn't report it to the police. But Mr. George, if you slander her like this, then leave this place. You're not welcome here. As they spoke, the little ones and the middle-sized ones who had been eavesdropping inside all came running out. They pushed and shoved at George, one after another. Get out. Aunt Rose is the best. You're a big bad guy, and you're not welcome here. Nina saw it with her own eyes. How could there be any problem? A flash of shame crossed George's face. But soon, he received a phone call and looked at me in astonishment. After placing me in the back seat, he got into the car with a cold expression. Driving fast and recklessly. I know, the paternity test results are out. I couldn't help but anticipate. George sped all the way. I almost threw up in the back seat. I probably understood what outlaw meant on TV. He pulled my hand, trembling slightly, pushed open the door of the Smith family, and rushed into my bedroom to get Mom's notebook. 3:24 My brothers hate me. They say I caused Mom and Dad's car accident. I'm not as generous and graceful as Nina Smith, like a true rich young lady, luckily. Jack is still with me. 4:3 Jack confessed his feelings to me. Rose Smith and my brothers look very unhappy. Did I take something from Rose Smith again? But clearly, I am the daughter of the Smith family. 7:2 Why did this happen? I wasn't jealous of Rose Smith, and I certainly didn't drug Jack. 8:10 I'm pregnant, and they don't believe it's Jack's child. George flipped through the pages, one by one, tears splattering onto the notebook. I watched him expressionlessly, thinking to myself, truly crocodile tears. Rose trusted me so much, yet I easily believed others' words and treated her like that. George clutched the diary and wept uncontrollably. The commotion disturbed the people upstairs. Uncle Mark Smith and Uncle Travis Smith gathered around Nina Smith. She saw George and spoke pitifully. Jack, I can't believe Nancy is your daughter. Why didn't my sister tell me all these years? Mark Smith looked disgusted. She always wanted to marry Jack. If she had said so, this child wouldn't have been kept. George roared, his eyes red. Enough, she's dead. Are you still going to slander her like this? Are you even her family? Rose Smith tried to pull him back but was pushed away by George. Even if Mom had said it, would you have believed her? As soon as the words fell, I was stunned. Ever since I was little, whenever I wanted to speak up for my mother, it was as if I'd lost my voice. I could only watch her be misunderstood by her so-called family, but this time, I actually said it. I instinctively looked behind Nina Smith. She shivered, turned her head suspiciously, but saw nothing. The uncles fell silent, because they all knew Mom had said it. I saw this part in the plot. That day, Mom originally intended to find someone to donate, but was set up by Nina Smith and ended up in George's room. No matter how she resisted or pushed away, the plot was like an invisible hand, pressing her firmly onto George's bed. After regaining her ability to move, Mom immediately ran out trembling and took the morning after pill. But she still had me. George woke up to find Nina Smith lying beside him, her clothes in disarray. From Nina Smith, he learned that his mother had schemed against him, leading to this unintended encounter with her. And his face turned ashen. Nina Smith wept bitterly, tearfully demanding to know why she had been set up with George. If it weren't for my sister scheming against Jack, that incident would never have happened. I don't want to steal my sister's fiancé. The uncles shielded Nina Smith behind them. George looked at Mom with disgust. You don't need to pretend anymore. When I woke up, it was Nina I saw. Calling off the engagement is the consequence of your own actions. Mother stood in place, her face filled with despair. At this moment, George opened his mouth, then lowered his head in defeat. Back then, When mother returned to the Smith family, it was he who took a liking to her gentle and kind nature, turning a blind eye to Nina Smith, who was pursuing him, and insisted on getting engaged to mother. Yet later, it was also he who claimed mother was scheming and only knew how to play the victim. Nina Smith panicked when she saw him like this. Jack. What's the use of listening to a child's one-sided words? Nancy wasn't even born when this incident happened. Besides, when I entered that room, you were the only one inside. My sister is very good at making up stories. Who knows what she told Nancy? George pursed his lips and spoke coldly. Rose is already dead. How can you fabricate stories? If it weren't for your instigation and sowing discord, she would have been my wife long ago. And Nancy wouldn't have had to endure all these years of you calling her a bastard. Nina Smith turned pale. George ignored her and turned to speak to his uncles. Nancy is my child, and I'm taking her back to my family. Mark Smith was the first to react, frowning. No, you and Rose are about to get married. What will people think of her if Nancy is recognized as part of the family now? Travis Smith also nodded, his gaze heavy. This child won't suffer any grievances in the Smith family. You just need to take good care of Nina. George's expression changed repeatedly. He stepped forward, clenched my hand tightly, and spoke sarcastically. An engagement? Is she even worthy? Nancy is my daughter, and I won't let you have her. He paused, his eyes reddened, and he said to me in a hoarse voice, Nancy, I'm your dad. Will you come with me? I turned a deaf ear. I pulled my hand away and said, word for word, no, I won't. I don't have a dad, only a mom. You're her fiancé, not my dad. These words were like a knife plunged into George's heart. His face was filled with hurt, and his voice was a little choked, but my heart felt incredibly relieved. Why do they get to live so well after hurting my mom? Why does death erase all mistakes? He just has to admit his fault, apologize, and then remorsefully enjoy the rest of his life in luxury. That's not right. Nina Smith, pale-faced, spoke softly from the side. Jack, I don't know why Nancy is your and my sister's child. But if my sister were here, she wouldn't want you to just take Nancy away like this. She really knew how to be sarcastic. I immediately retorted, mind your own business. Why is my dad your fiancé? Are you proud of stealing your own sister's man? Mark Smith's face changed, and he roared, Nancy, how dare you speak to your aunt like that? Nina Smith's mouth was open, and tears fell one by one, making her look particularly pitiful. If it had been before, George would have rushed forward to comfort her without hesitation, but this time, he merely glanced indifferently at Nina Smith, then lowered his head and spoke, Nancy, it's okay if you don't want to leave now. I'll come to see you often. Call Dad if anything happens. After George left, Nina Smith cried uncontrollably, Big brother, second brother, don't you believe me either? I really don't know why. I just woke up that day lying next to Jack. She bent down and looked at me, the hurt in her eyes perfectly placed. Nancy, your mother is dead. From now on, you'll only have your uncles and aunt. Don't be angry with Auntie, okay? Nina Smith doesn't seem to have changed much these past few years. She's not as beautiful as Mom, but she's much more cheerful and radiant. I looked up at her and suddenly spoke, Auntie, you're very pretty. Nina Smith beamed, and her uncles were also very happy. They said, we are family, and we should get along well from now on. Unlike George, who claimed to be my father, but he hasn't been good to Mom at all these years. I shook my head, staring at Nina Smith in confusion. You're beautiful, but Mom was even more beautiful than you. Why has she become so haggard over the years? Mom was the true daughter of the Smith family. Why are you living so splendidly while she's dead? Auntie, it should have been you who died. The uncles gasped. Nina Smith looked at me, stunned as if struck by lightning, with a hint of fear in her eyes upon closer inspection, but I didn't look at her. I turned my head and spoke to my uncles. Is it because of the George family's company? Mark Smith didn't react. Stepping forward to try and take my hand, I sidestepped, adding, you want me to stay in the Smith family because of the business with the George family, right? My grandparents are very capable people. When he was young, he built up a family fortune. But the uncles only knew how to revolve around Nina Smith all day. In recent years, for Nina Smith's sake, they had already squandered most of the company. It was all thanks to the George family's support behind the scenes. Without George, their comfortable lives were almost certainly coming to an end. Upon hearing my words, my second uncle, Travis Smith, turned pale and pointed at me with a trembling hand. Nancy is only 8 years old, how could she know these things? It must be her, she's back. He mumbled, frantically grabbing the clothes from the sofa, and stumbled out the door. Compared to Mark Smith's insane favoritism towards Nina Smith, Travis Smith seemed to care less about her. He only cared if he had money to spend. If Nina Smith could give him money, she was his good sister. At the slightest sign of trouble, he ran faster than anyone. I looked at the remaining Mark Smith. He is the current head of the Smith family. What nonsense are you spouting? I'm only keeping you here because you're of Smith family blood, otherwise, who do you think would want a burden like you? I said, oh, and tilted my head to look at him. Then I'll go back with Uncle George now and see if he wants this burden. Mark Smith's tone immediately softened. Nancy, what do you want? Uncle will buy it for you. But I didn't care about any of that. I said, I can stay, but I have one condition. I want Nina Smith to take care of me. Mark Smith breathed a sigh of relief, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes. Nina is your aunt anyway, so if you want her to take care of you, that's fine. Nina Smith wiped away her tears and agreed. I had been observing her. Her face was expressionless, as if she found the request unremarkable. Or perhaps she wanted to reconcile with George through me, unfortunately. She was about to be disappointed. George quickly sent over several maids. She said she was my nanny, but I refused. I want my aunt to take care of me. Mom's gone, and I'm scared. What I said yesterday was just out of anger. After all, we're family. The nannies looked at me with pity. I had just lost my mother, and with a pale face, I timidly took Nina Smith's hand. She curved her lips and spoke gently. I usually spend more time with Nancy, so let me take care of her. If Jack wants to see Nancy, I can take her to the George family. I didn't speak. The nannies exchanged glances, merely stating coldly that they needed to ask George. Nina Smith's smile froze on her face. George must have given them some instructions, otherwise they wouldn't dare to act this way. This puts my mind at ease. I quickly let go of Nina Smith's hand and subtly wiped it on my clothes. Auntie, will you watch cartoons with me? Nina Smith nodded, but throughout one episode, she was distracted, looking around. Every now and then, she'd ask me if I wanted to see George. Nancy, do you want a mommy and daddy? Auntie can take care of you with daddy, then the kids at school won't dare to bully you. How about that? Nina Smith brought over a plate of peaches. Smiling, my fingers paused. Then I picked up the skewer and ate it bite by bite. Under her expectant gaze, I shoved her hard. If you want to marry George, tell him yourself. You two sluts are a perfect match. In my opinion, even mentioning your parents would dirty my mouth. Nina Smith was stunned. In the Smith family these past few years, I was even more silent than my mother, because I couldn't open my mouth or speak. I watched her with a sneer, a fake, a bunch of blind and heartless trash. Nina Smith could no longer hold back and shrieked as she pushed me. I fell hard on the coffee table, crying and calling for my mom. The nannies panicked as soon as they entered the room. Nina Smith reacted, shaking her head nervously. No, she cursed at me first. The head nanny, Lucy, calmed down and quickly came to see me. My throat became itchier and itchier, my vision blurrier and blurrier, and I spoke softly. I want my mommy. Nanny Lucy frantically picked me up and rushed me to the hospital. I'm allergic to peaches and almost died. The doctor severely reprimanded George. He coldly looked at Nina Smith. Nancy is just a child. Isn't it enough that you forced Rose to her death? You won't even spare a child. Nina Smith was speechless. Her tears were no longer a panacea. Countless times before, as the weaker one, everyone had sided with her. But now, someone even more vulnerable than her had appeared. Everything Nina Smith was good at seemed to no longer work. George had his back to me, his words piercing Nina Smith one by one. Where he couldn't see, I subtly curved my lips, silently mouthing, "Bitch." Nina Smith shrieked in anger. No one believed her. Just like when Mom first returned to the Smith family, Nina Smith framed Mom for ruining her dress and embarrassing her. Even though Mom didn't do it, they didn't believe her, because Nina Smith had no reason to frame her, just as I had no reason to frame her. It's only fair. Mark Smith rushed to the hospital. The first thing he did was ask George what he wanted to do, not caring about me, nor comforting his dear sister. His collar was slightly creased, and he looked dejected. It seemed the company was going through a tough time recently. Nina can't take care of Nancy. I can find someone else. Mark Smith rubbed his temples. Speaking wearily, I whispered, I want my aunt to take care of me. Seeing that I was awake, George quickly asked about my health, deliberating. How about Dad gets you a few other nannies to take care of you? Your aunt has her own things to do. I shook my head in silence, looking at them with difficulty. Mom said my aunt would be good to me. Auntie took Mom's place, but Mom never fought with her. All she wanted was for Auntie to treat me well. George's eyes glistened with tears as he murmured, Rose was always so kind. Why didn't I believe her back then? When Mom was mentioned, Mark Smith's expression remained unchanged. I looked at him. Uncle has a stomach problem. He needs to eat on time. Seeing him look over, I lay on the bed, revealing a pale smile. Mom said so. She said Uncle always takes poor care of himself, and always personally cooks porridge and gives it to Aunt Lee to pass on to Uncle. Mark Smith's eyes flickered, and he opened his mouth, speechless for a moment. A feeling called guilt permeated the air. I softly asked again, where's Mom? When will Mom be back? If she were here, she would definitely take good care of me. Nina Smith couldn't take it anymore. Enough. I apologized to her. It was my fault for not taking good care of Nancy. Are you satisfied now that someone else is taking care of her? I watched her silently. Mark Smith was the first to snap back to reality. No, Nancy needs you to take care of her. Besides, she's right. You took the place that rightfully belonged to Rose. You should help take care of Nancy. Nina Smith was on the verge of tears. Her eyes were filled with rage, but she had nowhere to vent it. I sighed. What a terrible novel, where you can only compete with others after someone dies. George warned Nina Smith, if anything happens to Nancy again, I'll make you pay with your life. Nina Smith, tired, said, it wasn't me. George acted as if he hadn't heard. Sure enough, it's still that deaf person from back then. I sighed inwardly. When the nanny Lucy went out to get the medicine, Nina Smith suddenly asked me coldly, are you satisfied now that you've framed me? I blinked, suddenly choked up. Auntie, what's wrong with you again? Did I upset you again? Nina Smith grew anxious. Everyone's gone. What are you pretending for? What am I pretending for? Naturally, I'm preventing you from recording. Auntie, if you want to have a baby with Uncle George, go tell Mom to get me a new dad. She's always kind. She won't hold it against you. This was the first thing Lucy the nanny heard when she returned, and her face darkened. Nina Smith stopped speaking, her head drooping in defeat. That night, Nina Smith returned to the Smith family home. Mark Smith came to the hospital to accompany me. I lay in bed, flipping through the dead person literature novels, trying to find useful information, but I couldn't read all the characters, so I stumbled through it, and it gave me a terrible headache. The first half of those novels was almost exactly my mother's first half of life. Mark Smith suddenly spoke up. What are you reading? We three. I replied casually. Mom loves watching it. Mark Smith was a little surprised and blurted out, your mom can read. After saying it, he realized it was wrong and tried hard to find something to make up for it. I said indifferently, Mom has many books she loves to read and many hobbies. It's normal that Uncle doesn't talk to her much and doesn't know. Mom loves doing crafts. She's a craft blogger online. With tens of thousands of followers, she makes beautiful hairpins, does beadwork, and even makes cotton dolls. She likes purple. She likes matcha flavor. She's beautiful, more beautiful than my aunt. Unfortunately, he knows nothing. Perhaps my gaze provoked Mark Smith. He tried to recall, when your mother first returned to the Smith family, your grandparents had just passed away. We had no time to look after her. If she hadn't made that call, I looked at him, puzzled. Why did Grandpa and Grandma die after Mom made a call? My uncle looked at me deeply. Grandpa and Grandma were originally going to discuss business, but because they learned about your mother's situation, they urgently changed direction and collided with a truck on the side of the road, resulting in a car accident. I still don't understand. That was also the truck driver's mistake, or rather, Grandpa's driver didn't notice all the dangerous situations. You don't blame them. But you insist on blaming the youngest daughter whom Grandpa and Grandma loved the most. Why, Uncle, can't you find anyone else to blame? Mark Smith was speechless. He didn't dare to look at me. I ignored him, just muttering, Uncle George and Auntie have been together for so many years without getting married. Is it because he truly loved Mom? If Mom were still here, someone would take care of me, and Uncle George would look after the company. This kind of person is very good at imagining things that should have belonged to them, fueling the resentment in their hearts. At dawn, Mark Smith seemed to be liberated, fleeing as if escaping. After that, it was the nanny Lucy who took care of me. She was very kind and often kept an eye on Nina Smith to see if she was doing anything to me. Nina Smith naturally wouldn't dare. She would only worry if I would do anything to her. She wished she could stay far away from me. Just like Mom when she first arrived at the Smith family, realizing no one would help her, she instinctively wanted to protect herself. But Nina Smith didn't let her off the hook. When I was 5, my mom wanted to leave with me. I saw her quietly pack her bags, putting in my clothes, toys, and my favorite doll. But I inexplicably started to run a fever. I didn't say a word, letting my mom pull me out the door. In the end, I couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed by the roadside. When I woke up, we were back at the Smith family's house, with my mother shedding tears by my bedside. Uncle looked at him reproachfully, and Mark Smith even slapped my mother. He said my mother had accidentally locked Nina Smith, who suffered from claustrophobia, in the basement and then tried to escape with me. Mom didn't refute. She just looked at me with a very strange gaze, as if she was deliberating something. After that, she would deliberately avoid those people when talking about her uncles. Her expression was also indifferent. Thinking of this, I looked at the nanny, Lucy. Her eyes were very gentle, a bit like my mother's. She would coax me to take my medicine and tell me stories. Nanny Lucy, will Daddy like me? I blinked. Nanny Lucy burst out laughing. Of course, if you miss Daddy, you should tell him, Mr. George likes you very much, and if nothing unexpected happens, a new mommy will come to take care of you. Is the George family setting up a blind date for George? I nodded thoughtfully. Then I want to see Dad. The nanny, Lucy, stroked my head. Okay, Nina Smith naturally had to follow. After all, I couldn't be without my aunt. When I saw George again, she looked pitiful and held my hand timidly. Jack. George nodded faintly, his expression unchanged. I let go of Nina Smith and held George's hand, my expression full of affection. Daddy, I missed you so much. George was startled for a moment, then quickly looked at me excitedly. However, he wasn't very good at interacting with children, only saying what he liked and that he would buy it for me. Nanny Lucy said you missed me too. Is that true? I widened my eyes. George's gaze was gentle, and he nodded slightly, looking at Lucy the nanny with appreciation. Of course, and Dad wants to find you a new mom to take care of you. Do you want one? Nina Smith's face was grim. She no longer hid from me, but reached out to me, her tone stiff, yet undeniable. Nancy is young and can't accept strangers. I'll take her. I shook my head. I want a new mom. Now it was Nina Smith's turn to be surprised. Her face was pale, and she gritted her teeth, asking me in a low voice what I was going to do. I blinked. Nothing. I just want a new mom, that's all. When she leaned her ear closer, I spoke almost imperceptibly. You like him. I just don't want to grant your wish. George had long wanted me to stop associating with Nina Smith. Now, in this situation, he couldn't be happier. Yet, while he spoke fondly of my mother, he took my hand and went to meet another beautiful woman. She was beautiful and gentle, but occasionally, when she turned sideways, a sharp glint would flash in her eyes. While George was on the phone, I looked at her directly. You want to marry my dad? The woman was stunned for a moment, then nodded with interest. But don't worry, I won't have children to split your inheritance. The company needs it. Very good, very sincere. I have a way, but you can't marry him. It will bring bad luck. The woman suddenly smiled, her eyes curving, seemingly amused. But perhaps to humor me, she agreed. I didn't explain it to her. She'll find out naturally when the time comes. Nina Smith was no longer young, and had delayed marriage solely to wait for George. The Smith family company was shrinking. Mark Smith could barely take care of himself and had no time for her. He had been avoiding her lately, and when he did speak, he was very impatient, only telling Nina Smith to take good care of me. How could someone who was once the center of attention endure such humiliation? I didn't go back with Nina Smith. Mark Smith was so anxious that he came to find me on the spot. Recently, George has been lenient with the Smith family out of respect for me. Nancy, why aren't you going back with your uncle? Don't you want to live with your aunt anymore? My body trembled, and tears almost streamed down. I don't want to stay with Auntie, a seemingly ambiguous statement. Mark Smith was furious, turned around, and slapped Nina Smith hard. She's just a child. Haven't you caused enough trouble? Nina Smith was stunned. I didn't do anything. Mark Smith coldly rebuked her. Enough. I wasn't unaware of the tricks you played on Rose back then. I just couldn't be bothered to say anything. to treat a child like that. You're truly beyond redemption." Mark Smith looked at Nina Smith with disappointment. She suddenly shrieked and cursed at me like a madwoman. She cursed me, saying I was a bitch, just like my mom. I shrieked too. I didn't curse her back. I just called for Mom. George and Mark Smith were stunned. They hadn't expected Nina Smith to have such a side to her. He picked me up, as I was sobbing uncontrollably, and had the security guards escort them out. That night, I developed a fever and had nightmares all night long in a daze. Mom, don't go. George and Lucy, the nanny, stayed with me all night. When I opened my eyes the next day, George's eyes were bloodshot. He had people move my mother's and my belongings overnight. From there, he found my mother's diary from 8 years ago. In addition to his investigation of the orphanage, he probably already understood what happened then, all night. George almost cried his eyes out. I heard him say hoarsely, "Leave no room for sniping the Smith family," but my heart was completely unmoved. It was something that could easily be found out with a little effort, yet no one was willing to check. They should all go be with my mother. Living with the George family was no different from living with the Smith family. George was busy during the day, and I didn't like talking to him either. She would only occasionally pay attention to him. Usually when he mentioned targeting the Smith family, "Nancy, you're all Dad has left. If I take good care of you, will Mom be willing to come back and see me?" George seemed to have gone mad. I looked indifferently behind him, and the white figure turned away. I answered him for my mother, unwilling. George looked dejected and desperately bought me many good things, wanting to compensate me, and even more so, to compensate his shattered heart. Mom must have been desperate when she died. "If you get justice for her, she might be happy," I whispered like a devil in George's ear. George murmured, "Yes, they all wronged Rose. They must pay the price." George is a ruthless man. His life-threatening demeanor terrified the George family parents. George directly sidelined them, using half his fortune to target the Smith family. Mark Smith was terrified and tried to visit the George family every day, but George kept refusing to see him. He only said one thing: "I don't want to see Rose after I die. She still hates me." Mark Smith wanted to see me again. George asked for my opinion, and I nodded. When I saw him, I sighed. "Uncle, Mom suffered too much. Someone has to pay the price." So Mark Smith had an epiphany. He expelled Nina Smith from the Smith family and publicly acknowledged his mother's status. Unfortunately, the Smith family still went bankrupt, although George had backed off. Other companies in the industry knew full well that the Smith family had lost its backing, and naturally, they couldn't wait to carve up the Smith family immediately. The Smith family was left homeless, and Mark Smith's face was ashen. When he came to me, he was already unshaven. He seemed to want to say something, opened his mouth, but said nothing. If Rose were here, none of this would have happened. He seemed to have aged overnight, but I didn't care much. Seeing him doing poorly put my mind at ease. It's worth noting that Travis Smith didn't possess Mark Smith's decadent tranquility. His life of luxury gone, he furiously sought out Nina Smith, beating and kicking her, blaming her for ruining the Smith family. Nina Smith, not to be outdone, fought back against him. But men have a natural physical advantage. During the fight, Nina Smith was accidentally pushed from the 3rd floor by Travis Smith. She didn't die, but she was paralyzed. When George carried me to the hospital, I quietly watched her. "Auntie, do you think Mom felt pain when she jumped?" She looked at me in horror, as if I were a demon. Travis Smith went to prison, sentenced to 3 years for attempted murder. Mark Smith was at Nina Smith's bedside, seemingly ready to take care of him, but the favoritism of the past was gone from his eyes, replaced only by hatred. I felt as if I could already see the rest of Nina Smith's life. I finished looking at the Smith family. George stood at my door again in the middle of the night, as if possessed, muttering to himself, "Nancy, will she forgive me? I did so much for her." That year, when she first returned to the Smith family, she was like a refugee, although a bit reserved. Her eyes were exceptionally bright. I was the one who brought her back to the Smith family, but we've all wronged her these past years. We've all been unkind to her. The nanny, Lucy, held me tightly. George was always like this. There seemed to be something wrong with his mind. Nanny Lucy was very worried about me. I patted her, trying to reassure Nanny Lucy. "He's my dad, it's fine." I casually made up an excuse to convince the Nanny Lucy to step out first. She looked at me with concern and reluctantly left the room. George looked up blankly. "I always feel like Rose is nearby. Does she hate me?" I stared intently at the figure behind him, the white silhouette shaking its head. She doesn't hate you. George let out a sigh of relief. I corrected him again. Without love, there can be no hate. In the Smith family, George mostly ignored the suffering his mother endured. She had a hard time in the Smith family before, and though George pursued her, it didn't change her situation. Sometimes I wonder, perhaps all my mother wanted was someone to talk to, but none of that matters now. George froze, tears falling to the ground. His mental state was concerning. So he simply called a lawyer and drafted his will, leaving all the property to me. I sighed. Donate it. In Mom's name. George nodded. All right. A few months later, he seemed to always be hallucinating. Whenever he talked about Mom in front of me, I remained silent, looking at him with tolerance. George also understood that he had gone mad. 6 months later, he was admitted to a mental hospital. I told George's worried parents that it would be better to send Dad to a mental hospital abroad, where the medical conditions are better, but in fact, it would be easier for him to get completely lost there. George's parents agreed. They could hardly wait to get back to the company, wishing George would just disappear. Soon enough, George was gone too. I didn't feel like talking and often zoned out, with the nanny Lucy keeping me company. Her eyes flickered with worry. I know, it's my turn, but as I stood on the window, a force stopped me. I finally saw that familiar figure, and her eyes held a gentle disapproval. Mom, will you hate me? I'm his daughter. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't be this damn female lead. I saw it all. When I was 5, Mom wanted to take me away. I opened my mouth, wanting to say, Mom can go by herself. Don't worry about me. I'll take care of myself. But I couldn't say it. Mom didn't leave. I thought it was because she didn't have money, so I worked hard and saved for a year. But she still didn't leave. Mom said, I have to stay here. It wasn't until she died that I understood what she meant. I was the means by which the plot bound her, and annoying shackles. Only when she dies, and this damned plot is over, can I live my own life. I cried my heart out. This damned dead person literature. Why can't she rest in peace? Even after death, sadness overwhelmed me. A pair of hands gently stroked my head. I heard Mom's voice again. She said, Nancy was never a shackle for Mom. Our Nancy is the best daughter in the world. Keep going, and help Mom see this world. Okay, Nancy, we'll meet again. Tears streaming down my face, I replied, okay, Mom. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In the poorest year of my life, my mother was taken back into a wealthy family. I was obsessed with novels, especially those about mistaken identities between rich and poor daughters. I often fantasized about the plotlines in those books. If only I were the real rich daughter who got switched at birth, then I'd have lots and lots of money. I want to buy my mom a big house and hire 5 or 6 male models to serve her. Unexpectedly, this actually happened. But the real heiress who was lost wasn't me. It was my mom. An utterly ordinary third-generation rich kid. I'm riding on my mother's coattails to wealth. I haven't fully processed this fact yet. Before I knew it, I was following my mother back to the James family villa. The James family's villa is enormous, complete with gardens and fountains. I was internally exclaiming, wow, even after reading thousands of stories about real and fake heiresses, I couldn't have imagined such luxury. Indeed, poverty has limited my imagination. I walked beside my mother, looking around. My mother, the long-lost true heiress who had been missing for 34 years, having suddenly learned about her true origins, her emotions were fluctuating, and it was inevitable that she felt nervous. I held my mother's hand, using this gesture to reassure her. I'll always be here. Julia, help your mom take a look. How do I look in this outfit today? My mother tugged at her cotton coat and whispered to me quietly, this cotton coat, neither new nor old, still carried the musty smell of clothes stored in a wooden chest for too long when you got close. But this is my mom's best and only piece of clothing. Only during the new year would my mom reluctantly take it out to wear. Yet even so, my mom and I still seemed out of place in front of this 3-story villa. Mom, you look beautiful today. In my eyes, my mother is the most beautiful person in the world. A smile spreads across my face. Yet deep inside, a mournful song has long begun to play. Life in a wealthy family is never easy. The blood-soaked tropes of true and false heiress stories have already taught me. after the real heiress returns home, she not only faces biased family members but also encounters scheming green tea bitches. But with me here, there's no way I'll let my mom suffer such injustice. As soon as I entered, a group of people came towards me. I was about to shout, "Where's my knife?" Upon closer inspection, it was the James couple, both over 50. A beautiful young woman dressed in a chic, mature style, and her 10-year-old daughter. I was stunned. Could that brat, who's even younger than me, be the fake heiress who stole my place? Lost in thought, Mrs. James and my mother embraced each other in tears. After a round of warm and affectionate recognition, I quickly grasped the situation. The real heiress returned too late. The story had already reached its end. The fake heiress took the money, got married, and had a child. Everything has been settled. I drew my sword, looked around, and felt lost. My mother sobbed uncontrollably, crying, "Mom," repeatedly in Mrs. James's arms. I put down my broadsword, feeling like nothing mattered anymore. My mother has had an unbearably hard life. Her adoptive parents favored boys over girls, forcing her to drop out of school and start earning money for the family at a young age. Even so, she still suffered frequent abuse at their hands, until my mother grew up. Her adoptive parents tricked her into marrying someone else in exchange for a bride price to marry a wife for their own son. My mother was completely powerless to resist the fate arranged for her and could only lie on that small bed set up in the toilet, trying to convince herself, perhaps, life after marriage will be better than it is now. Life is always cruel. My mother's life was not blessed by fate. Her existence merely transitioned from one hell to another, after marriage. My father quickly revealed his true nature. He was an alcoholic and a compulsive gambler, especially when he lost money after drinking. He would come home at night and swing his fists at my mother's face. To give me a complete family, my mother endured it all, wiping away her tears, until my father's fists started coming at me. Only then did my mother take me and flee that home without looking back. She didn't want me to become a second version of herself, after leaving my father. It hasn't been easy for my mother to raise me alone all these years. As a vulnerable woman, she had no education nor the ability to establish herself in society. She worked 3 jobs a day, toiling from dawn to dusk, doing all kinds of dirty and exhausting labor. Later, my mom worked hard to save up some money and set up a steamed bun stall at our school gate, but our life didn't get much better than before. Although life was tough, my mom never let me suffer. She always did her best to give me a happy childhood. She said, "Julia, with Mom here, you don't need to worry about anything." But now it's different. My mom has found her own mother, found her support. She can cry freely now, no longer has to face the cruelty of the world alone. I understand better than anyone the deep longing for family love in my mother's heart. For today's reunion, the James family prepared a large table of delicious food. There were so many dishes I had never seen before. Mr. and Mrs. James pulled my mother to sit down, and I sat next to her. At the table, Mrs. James kept serving my mother dishes and asked about her recent life with concern. Seeing the two of them tear up as they talked, Mr. James changed the subject. "You must be Julia. From now on, this is your home, and we are your grandparents. Shouldn't you start calling us that?" Is Julia feeling shy? "Why aren't you calling us Grandpa and Grandma?" Suddenly being put on the spot, my mind went blank. Actually, my persona today is to play the villainess supporting my mom. Haven't switched back yet. Everyone chimed in with Mr. James's remarks, sharing a few laughs, and the table remained harmonious for the time being. Slap! Suddenly, the 10-year-old girl across the table threw her chopsticks away. "She is the daughter of the fake heiress, Sarah Scott," she cried. "Those are my grandparents, not yours. You country bumpkin, you hillbilly, you don't deserve to step into our house." The crowd fell silent for a moment. My mother instinctively shielded me behind her, but her face flushed red with shame at those words. I turned my head to observe. In this situation, the fake heiress Mia, as the mother, sat silently by without saying a word. It was as if she tacitly approved of her daughter's behavior. Mrs. James frowned and said, "Sarah, you mustn't speak to your sister like that. Sister Julia is part of our family now, and she will be living here with you from now on." As soon as the words were spoken, the little girl cried even harder. "She's not my family at all. After she came, Grandma and Grandpa stopped caring about me and Mom. They never scolded me before. She's a bad person. Her mom is a bad person too." "Wah, Mom, Did Grandma and Grandpa abandon us? But I can't bear to leave them. Grandma and Grandpa loved Sarah the most. Mia, heartbroken, pulled her into a tight embrace and glared at us with cold, angry eyes. Mom, don't forget what you promised me before she came back. You said nothing at home would change because of her arrival. It's only her first day back, and you've already made Sarah feel wronged. I wonder if in a few days, you and Dad will be considering redistributing the family assets. Little green tea. Big arrogance. The fake heiress is quite domineering. With her former family's wealth in hand and the backing of the Scott family behind her, naturally, there was no need to play the innocent and pitiful to seek affection. Mr. James slammed the table and coldly rebuked, Mia, look at you, what nonsense are you spouting again? Mrs. James felt heartbroken. She opened her mouth several times to scold Mia but still couldn't bring herself to do it. Finally, she turned to my mom and said, Lola, don't take Mia's angry words to heart, it's my fault. But I'll make up for all the years you've lost, I promise. The underlying message was clear, compensation was possible, but redistributing the family assets was out of the question. She coaxed softly, I'll have the housekeeper Monica prepare a guest room for you. You and Julia should stay here tonight instead of going back. As soon as the words were spoken, I understood in my heart, the warmth just now was nothing but a mirage. In the James family, everything belongs to the fake heiress, Mia. Even our parents' hearts are biased toward her. TSK, it's already 2025, and it's still so cliched and melodramatic. My mother and I moved into the James family's house, although it's just a guest room hastily prepared for us, but it's much bigger than our tiny rented apartment. I lay on the soft Simmons mattress, fuming until 3 in the morning, bathed in the moonlight from the window. My mother's sleeping face looked serene and beautiful, making the expressions of the James family members appear even more sinister in contrast. Furious, I decided to read some stories to calm my anger. I opened my astonishingly large collection of true and fake heiress novels. Read. I read with such intensity, losing myself completely, as if my life depended on it. After binge reading over 100 true and fake heiress novels in a row, I screamed in my heart. The true heiress has returned. The story is already at its end. The green tea bitch is married, has kids, and took the money. What now? Waiting online, really urgent. The answer isn't in the book. Teacher, this problem is too hard. I can't solve it. I think the corpse feels warm. Oh, turns out it was cremated. In an instant, I felt my mouth go dry, and I quietly slipped out of the room. Suddenly, Sarah appeared, dressed in a white gown. I thought I had seen a ghost. She was holding a glass of water, as if she had come prepared. Sister, why did you have to come back? Why do you have to compete with me for my grandparents? Her face twisted in anger. They are my grandparents. It would have been so much better if you and your mother had died out there. Why did you have to come back? Just die, all of you, just die. Before I could react, I saw her suddenly splash the water in her hand onto her face. She fell backward, and the cup shattered into pieces. Her fair, delicate hand, pressed against the ground, was cut with a deep gash. Red blood dripped onto the white fragments, stained crimson red. In an instant, the entire villa lit up brightly, with footsteps rushing in from all directions. My heart pounded like a drum, my eardrums blocking out all surrounding sounds, until Sarah, lying on the ground, suddenly cried out to me, Sister, Mom and I didn't mean to take yours and Auntie's things on purpose. Please don't hit me. Sarah will give you whatever you want. We can return everything to you. Just please don't drive Mom and me away. Mom misses Grandpa and Grandma the most. Sarah misses them too. Her pale little face lay in Mia's arms, her bleeding hand still clutching tightly at Mrs. James's sleeve. No one would believe a 10-year-old child could lie. Wow, holy cow, I'm absolutely stunned. Turns out this art of being a scheming, green tea, not only gets passed down but improves with each generation. Julia. I turned around to see my mother's pale face before me, her frail figure swaying unsteadily. Sarah was carried away to have her wounds treated. The James family sat together on the sofa, enveloped in a heavy silence. Mia spoke angrily. I never expected a child so young could be so vicious. Mom, Sarah is only 10 years old. Her hands are meant for playing the piano. I've been so careful to protect her since she was little, never letting her get hurt. And on their very first day back, Sarah gets injured. No matter what, I deserve an explanation. Mrs. James remained silent. Mr. James coldly scolded. Thankfully Sarah's hand is fine. If anything serious had happened to it, we wouldn't have been able to explain it properly to the Scott family. If relations with the Scotts had soured, this matter wouldn't have been let go so easily, Mia sneered. Like father, like son. I was furious and about to speak up. Unexpectedly, my mom beat me to it. Julia didn't do it. I know my child. Julia is the kindest soul and would never do something like this. I froze, my vision blurring. Mom, my mother patted the back of my hand, her voice firm and resounding. My Julia would never do such a thing, Mrs. James frowned. Lola, as a mother, I understand how you feel, but spoiling your child like this is only harming her. Now Sarah is seriously injured. The doctor said she almost lost her future because of this. You just came back and don't know. That child loves playing the piano. If Sarah can never play piano again in the future, what will she do with her life? This is ruining someone's entire life. The facts are right in front of you now. Why are you still protecting your child? Lola, listen to your mother. Have Julia apologize to Sarah and Mia. We'll still be one family after this. My mother shook off her hand. Mom, you said it yourself. I'm Julia's mother. This is the child I carried for 10 months and gave birth to. I love her, I believe in her, and I will protect her. The glimmer of tears in my mother's eyes stung Mrs. James. Her gaze flickered as she guiltily lowered her head. My mother straightened her back and faced the crowd head-on. There's been a misunderstanding. Investigate. Check the surveillance. This will clear my Julia's name. I sobbed uncontrollably in her arms. I am much luckier than my mother. I have such a wonderful mother like her. I can't understand why there are mothers in this world who don't love their children. Mrs. James is also my mother's mother, but I don't think she loves my mother. Mr. James snapped coldly. What's the point of checking the surveillance? Haven't we embarrassed ourselves enough? Have Julia apologized to Sarah? We've watched Sarah grow up with our own eyes, and we know this child. She wouldn't lie. The child is hurt like this. Can't you even give an apology? Mr. James's disappointed gaze sent a shiver through my mother's heart, her body trembling uncontrollably. She had only recently returned to the James family, experiencing but a fleeting moment of warmth. Yet in the blink of an eye, reality delivered a harsh slap to my mother's face. It gave her hope only to leave her utterly disappointed. Footsteps could be heard outside the door. Jack, the eldest of the James family, had just rushed back from the office by car and immediately started accusing, "You've caused such a big mess right after coming back. Mom, Dad, if something serious happens to Sarah's hand, can the two of them bear the responsibility? How are we going to explain this to the James and Scott families? I heard everything clearly outside the door just now. Apologize. Otherwise, I'll have no choice but to call the police." Jack was very cold towards my mother's half-sister who had returned midway. My mother's body instantly tensed up. I was dumbfounded. They were absolutely insane. I couldn't win against them, so I decided to join them. No need to bother. I've already called the police. The James family looked at me in astonishment. I slammed a voice recorder onto the table and started playing it on loop. Sarah's arrogant words in front of me were now being replayed before the entire James family. Having read countless stories about true and false heiresses, how could I not know the importance of voice recorders and cameras? I couldn't afford to buy one, so I shamelessly begged a classmate to lend me one. Unexpectedly, it actually came in handy. Before the police arrive, I suggest you all help our little green tea. Think carefully about what to say. My original intention was to just wait for the police to take that green tea away and be done with it, but now, I'm being driven crazy. I looked around at the James family members. They all had shifty eyes, none daring to look at me. My mom whispered to me in a hushed voice, "What's a little green tea?" The family doctor came over at this moment. "The young miss has woken up." Mia turned to Mrs. James with reddened eyes. "Mom, Mrs. James, heartbroken. Didn't mention the recording at all and persuaded, this was just a misunderstanding. Since Sarah has woken up, let's just let it go. It was just some roughhousing between kids." Even my mother, who was directly involved, could now see how biased the James family's hearts were. Leaning all the way to the Pacific Ocean, trying to find a needle in a haystack is just plain stupid. If Sarah was wronged, she had to apologize. But when Julia was wronged, how can we just let it go? My mom's weakness is me. Without evidence, she always protects me. There's already evidence. She can't possibly expect me to swallow this injustice, Mrs. James softened her tone. Since ancient times, harmony in the family leads to prosperity in all endeavors. Lola, furious, I began to exert my influence. So according to you, this harmony in the family leads to prosperity means sacrificing me and my mother. If that's the case, then why did you bring my mother back in the first place? And as for me, I'd like to ask this aunt, after stealing 30-some years of my mother's life, propped up by the James family, you've now become a socially celebrated and wealthy painter, then you married into the Scott family, the real estate tycoons my mother was originally engaged to, had a daughter, and can even afford to send her to piano lessons now. All of this, it's all because of my mother. And what has my mother endured in your place? I think you've already looked into that before. Haven't you? Parents who favored sons over daughters, daily abuse, a violent, alcoholic husband. All the suffering my mother went through these years was what you should have endured, yet you've been living the life my mother was meant to have, and now you dare accuse her of trying to steal what's yours. Aunt, have some shame. Mia fainted from anger. What are you saying? Indeed not human, can't even understand human speech anymore. I snorted. And you, the James family. You want my mother to come back, and expect her and me to sacrifice ourselves for you and your daughter. Is this what you call compensation, as the James family keeps preaching, you, the privileged one, sitting high above with that disgusting attitude? It's truly nauseating. The villainess taught me how to grow. I pointed at their noses, commanding the scene with bold authority. I scolded them so fiercely they didn't dare utter a single word. Today, I will make them understand. My mother is the pitiful, helpless, fragile heiress who deserves love, so you're the protagonists. You're all noble and righteous. Seeing the situation was hopeless, the fake heiress Mia suddenly changed her previous arrogance and began shedding tears. I was the one who took what wasn't mine. I shouldn't have been here in the first place. I'll go back now and explain everything to the Scott family. File for divorce from David Scott, and take Sarah with me. I won't keep a single share of the James family stocks allocated to me. I'll return them all to my sister, Mom, and Dad. Forgive your daughter for not being able to stay by your side and take care of you in your old age. Mrs. James's heart was almost broken upon hearing this. She grabbed the person. What kind of talk is this? You're not going anywhere. You'll stay right here with your parents and brother. This picture-perfect family harmony is truly nauseating. I changed my plan and settled for the next best thing. If I can't get love, I might as well get some money. I cut them off. Fine. I hope you mean what you say. Transfer your shares to my mom right now. That portion was always meant for the daughters of the James family. It's what my mom deserves. Arrange for a lawyer to draft the contract as soon as possible. Jack's face darkened. Coming back just to ask for money. How utterly disgraceful. In your eyes, money must be more important than family. Yo, money is more important than family. I'm being sarcastic. I'm acting weird. Let them eat cake. Modern version, right? Seems like you people from the James family won't give love nor spare any money. Bringing us back is just pure torture, isn't it? I'm too young and insignificant to have a say. Mrs. James turned directly to my mother. Lola, do you feel the same way? Is money more important than people? We're your flesh and blood, after all. My mother softened, as the blood of the James family still runs through her veins. Mom, I didn't mean it that way. Mrs. James relaxed her frown and turned to comfort Mia. See, you're just being temperamental. I told you your sister wouldn't compete with you. Before your husband returns, you'll stay right here and not go anywhere. Mia was already 34 years old, yet Mrs. James still treated her like a child to be coaxed. My mother's eyes instantly reddened. It was the familial affection she had longed for all her life but could never obtain. Now that we have a home, we still haven't gained a single penny. No one cared about my mother's feelings at all. Mom, my mother went back to the room to pack our things and take me away. Mom, do we really have to leave? My mother walked ahead, her figure silhouetted against the light. It doesn't matter if I suffer, but I can't let you suffer there. I wiped away my tears and smiled. As long as my mother is with me, anywhere I live is a golden, magnificent mansion. Mrs. James hurriedly came to stop her. Lola, where are you going in the middle of the night? Home, back to my own home. This is your home. No, my mother was adamant. From now on, just consider me as no longer your daughter. Your previous residence has already been dealt with. I had people move everything back here. Where else could you go, Mrs. James panicked. Unable to pull my mother back, and could only agree, don't go, please don't go, stay here. I'll make Sarah apologize to Julia. I'll give Julia an explanation. Back to the James family. Sarah was already awake, sitting on the sofa with a pale face. Sister, I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? I stood by my mother's side without saying a word. If it weren't for the voice recorder I had on me, I would have had to swallow this unfairness today, and now, I'm even being pressured to forgive her. The victim in all this, her eyes reddened as she poured a glass of water from the table and walked toward me. Sister, I took the glass and splashed the water in her face in front of the James family. Jack, who was standing closest, immediately rushed over. I turned the cup upside down and shook it, making sure every last drop fell on her. That previous cup of water wasn't thrown by me, but this one definitely is. The James family looked as if they'd swallowed flies, not daring to utter a single word. After all, the police couldn't handle this matter. Better to just throw it back for satisfaction, Jack said with a dark expression. That incident wasn't Sarah's fault. Why do you insist on holding a grudge? I looked up and met his gaze directly. Uncle, I'm the victim here. Whether or not to forgive her is my decision. No one can demand that of me, and whether Mom chooses to forgive Mia is Mom's decision too. He frowned. Mia is also a victim. She was just a child back then, unaware. All of this was her biological mother's wrongdoing. I interrupted him. The privileged are never innocent. I've learned all these golden quotes from novels. Even if the domineering CEO comes, I can take on 10 at once. The next morning, after my mom dropped me off at school, she still set up her steamed bun stall at the school gate, despite the grand scene yesterday. It was still during the peak flow of students leaving school. Many people witnessed my mom and me being picked up by the James family's car, yet today, here she is, dressed plainly as ever, selling steamed buns from dawn to dusk. I had just entered the classroom when a classmate I was close to came over to gossip. Julia, how come I saw your mom at the school gate this morning? I heard she was picked up by the James family's luxury car yesterday. She lowered her voice. I also heard from my mom that she's the real heiress of the James family who was lost outside. My mom told me the James family is super rich. They couldn't spend all their money in several lifetimes. Why would your mom still need to sell buns? I let out a long sigh. There's no helping it. A child who isn't the favorite can only work harder. Blood ties ultimately can't compete with someone else's 30+ years of daily companionship. As soon as the words were spoken, the crowd gasped in astonishment, their minds racing with dramatic scenarios. They excitedly discussed. My mom is still the best. The fried eggs she makes are the most delicious in the world. If I had to swap my mom with Aunt's parents, I'd be the first to refuse. That's just too biased. A fake heiress is just a fake heiress. If someone stole my parents and took my identity, I'd definitely fight her when I get back. And kick her out of the house too. The more I said, the angrier they got. Julia, let's crowdfund. Sleep with her man and beat up her kids. After several days of my persistent efforts in spreading the word, the James family has essentially suffered a small-scale downfall in reputation. On the school's confession wall, someone posted about this incident. People from the school engaged in lively discussions in the comments section. Some even went as far as to start a crowdfunding campaign, submitting the story to local news outlets and paying for articles to be published on public platforms. The situation is escalating. Everyone knows that the true heiress of the James family is the one selling buns at the entrance of middle school. Meanwhile, the fake heiress is living a comfortable life within the James family. The public is outraged by the James family's actions. The James family could no longer hold back. They waited outside the school gate. Jack was wearing a knitted outfit today, but his imposing figure still drew attention wherever he stood. Come back with me. My mother glanced up at him, then lowered her head to count the money in the box. Today, I earned $104. Later, I can take Julia to eat the duck neck she's been craving. Jack's face darkened. Lola, who are you putting on this act for? Do you want to make me and our parents feel guilty? Then let me tell you clearly. Your plan has failed. This whole act of yours is a complete waste of time. You've been working all morning and only earned this little. You might as well go back to the James family. We can give you a monthly allowance of $50,000. My mother turned a deaf ear. Jack's face completely darkened. He couldn't understand why his mother would cherish and count a mere few $100s so many times. More guests arrived, and my mother went to greet them. Jack had no choice but to come to school to find me. When Jack arrived, I was having PE class on the playground. Coincidentally, Sarah was in the International Junior High section of our school, and her class also had PE. That day, the news that her mother was a fake heiress had long spread throughout the school. The school's exclusive international campus was filled with children from wealthy families. When making friends, they placed greater emphasis on social status and family background. Sarah had always boasted about her artist mother, but now everyone knew the truth. Her mother was a fake heiress. Her face was slapped with loud, stinging smacks. Sarah's status among her classmates plummeted, and she was ruthlessly ostracized. She cornered me on the playground, no longer able to maintain that fragile, pitiful mask. "Sister, have you been spreading rumors outside?" I sneered coldly. "Oh, really? I'm just stating some facts. Your mother is a fake heiress. Did I say anything wrong?" Her face darkened as she shot a meaningful glance at the people behind her. "But I'm not someone to be trifled with either." My classmates, worried I might be bullied, were crouching under a nearby tree. Seeing something was wrong with my situation, they instantly surrounded us. "Julia, who is this?" I smiled and said, "Let me introduce you. This is my sister, my fake sister." They burst into laughter. "Oh, so she's the one whose mom is a fake heiress. How shameless can she be to still have the nerve to come near you?" Sarah had always been the center of attention, accustomed to being treated like a star, and no one had ever dared to say such humiliating words to her face. Her features twisted with anger, leaving her speechless. I snorted coldly, "You little brat, daring to bully me. I've read quite a few bullying stories myself." That's when Jack arrived. With reddened eyes, Sarah said, "Uncle." He avoided the crowd and turned to me, shouting, "What nonsense have you been spreading outside? Do you think the James family hasn't been humiliated enough? Your mother is out there selling buns in public, and you're going around school spreading the story about the James family's child mix-up." He softened his tone slightly. "Come with me, let's go talk to your mom. Tell her to pack up her stall and come home with me." Furious, I suddenly lunged at him. "What does the James family's disgrace have to do with me and my mom? You bullied my mom. That's not my home, and you're not even considered family to us. You always wrong my mom. Who knows? One day you might kick us out because of that fake one. If we don't earn our own living, we'll be at your mercy forever." He stood firm, while I staggered back a step. But I'm not a fool either, and naturally didn't want to confront him head-on, so I turned and ran. Jack came to the school a few more times later, staking out my mom for several days in a row. After that, he never showed up again. Instead, when Mrs. James scolded us with a stern face, Jack would occasionally speak up once or twice to defend me and my mom. In the end, the James couple had to settle for second best, offering my mom a shopfront by the school gate to run a breakfast stall. My mom refused. She only wanted to support me with her own two hands. My mom treated the James family as if they were completely invisible. Human nature is cheap. My mother's indifference only made the James family circle around her even more, trying to compensate her within their means. And this, within their means, meant not touching anything that belonged to Mia. I responded to them with a sarcastic laugh. After the scandal about the real and fake heiresses broke out, my mom's business actually got better and better. We secretly planned to move out once we saved up some money. My mom promised to find me an apartment with a big balcony before class ended. My mind wandered, daydreaming about a bright future. "Julia, something's happened to your mom." The shout shattered my sweet dream. I grabbed my backpack and rushed to the school gate. There I saw a man with greasy, foul-smelling hair and yellowed teeth dragging my mom by her hair while stuffing scattered money into his pockets and slapping her face. I couldn't be more familiar with his face. I watched as he took my mother's money, then pulled a knife from his pocket. I shrieked and charged at him like a madwoman. Perhaps alcohol and debauchery had long since hollowed him out. With that one collision, I actually knocked him down. "I protect my mom. Call the police. Someone's killing people. Call the police." My mom and I were also taken to the police station. My dad, still restless at the police station, kept cursing and tried several times to rush at us. "Try hitting my mom and see what happens." I shielded my mother with my body. "I'm grown up now. I won't let you lay a finger on her." The police stopped the man. The James family arrived quickly. They soon realized that the drunken man huddled in the hall was the one who had started the fight. From his unbearable words, I learned that he was my dad. My mother's injuries and my swollen half-face all told them what kind of life my mother used to live. They say hearing is not as good as seeing, and seeing cannot truly convey the feeling. What we didn't expect was that my mother's adoptive parents also came looking for her. They beat and cursed both my mother and me. Bitch, bitch, you dare run away, let's see where you can hide, come back with me, throwing away a good life, abandoning your husband and parents at home, running off with your daughter, such filial impiety, shameless, a disgrace to womanhood. They were dragging my mother, yet kept glancing at the James family, as if waiting for something. Jack was the first to lose patience and stepped forward to stop them. She's not your daughter, she's my biological sister, a daughter of the James family. What nonsense are you spouting? My mother's adoptive parents' eyes darted around as they shouted loudly, this is our daughter, our daughter. This farce finally ended when the James family intervened, offering a large sum of money to the adoptive parents and my father before everyone dispersed. This is the biggest joke I've ever heard. The victim having to pay the perpetrator for emotional damages. The more I think about it, the more something feels off. That day's events were just too coincidental. It's been several years since my mom and I escaped. I've already transferred schools. My dad can't find my mom at all, and the Xing family foster parents wouldn't bother putting in the effort to look for her either. How could they appear on the same day, so coincidentally? I picked a weekend and told my mom I was going to a friend's house to play, but in reality, I was secretly going to follow my dad. Relying on my memory, I navigated through winding streets into a poor alley, where I saw a luxury car suddenly appear. A man in black got out of the car and handed my dad a large sum of money. The woman wearing sunglasses in the back seat was Mia. I watched the car drive away and stepped out from the blind spot. Turns out, reality is even harsher than in books. The fake heiress has no intention of letting us go. She is now rich and powerful, and has the Scott family backing her. As long as she is willing, she can always use my dad as a knife to stab my mom at any time, ruining my mom's life. I took a deep breath. My mom has nothing left. I must protect my mom at all costs. Later, I went against my usual behavior and actively tried to please Mr. and Mrs. James by being obedient and charming. I would also occasionally hint at how much my mom values family bonds. They gradually let their guard down. At Grandpa James's upcoming 70th birthday banquet, I was asked to attend with my mother, but only as an adopted daughter of the James family. I readily agreed. My mother was even easier to handle. As long as I said I wanted to go, my mother would definitely accompany me. The James family sent 2 dresses. This was the first time my mom wore such a beautiful dress. She gently ran her hand over the gown. Julia, this dress is so beautiful. Compared to my mom's cotton coat, it was indeed much more beautiful. I rested my head on her shoulder, admiring her reflection in the mirror. My mother resembles Mrs. James. With a little effort, she outshines everyone at the banquet. She was meant to be a beautiful white swan with splendid feathers, but by some twist of fate, she fell into the dust. I refused to let her endure this injustice. Mr. and Mrs. James, as the guests of honor, are to give a speech on stage. They want to take this opportunity to reveal my and my mother's identities. I picked up a glass of red wine from the attendant. My mother, quick-eyed and swift-handed, replaced it with orange juice. Julia, children shouldn't drink alcohol, I pouted, and as my gaze flickered, I accidentally spilled orange juice on the handsome, aloof man who happened to walk by. Sorry, uncle. I didn't mean to. It's fine, he frowned and said before turning to change his clothes. I found an excuse to go to the restroom, but I was actually secretly following him upstairs to the 2nd floor. I knocked on his door. Uncle David, have you ever considered that your life might have also had a tiny little hiccup? By the time I returned to the banquet, James and his wife were speaking on stage. Sarah had just finished performing a piano piece. She stood beside her mother, looking at me with a triumphant and proud expression, because from today onwards, her mother would no longer be the fake heiress, the fake, that her classmates called her, and my mother and I had become ungrateful ingrates, adopted by the James family, yet repaying kindness with enmity. Mr. and Mrs. James arranged for someone to bring my mother and me onto the stage. I looked distantly towards a certain spot in the crowd, waiting for someone to appear. The speech was drawing to a close. Mr. James solemnly said, "Finally, let me introduce to everyone the new members of our James family, my newly sponsored and adopted daughter, Lola, and her daughter, Julia." The crowd parted as a cold, aloof man in a custom suit pushed someone forward. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Isn't that David Scott, the second young master of the Scott family?" I looked at the person in the wheelchair, and my eyes lit up. The old man in the wheelchair was the patriarch of the James family. Who said this old man was old? This old man is amazing. I snatched the microphone and began my performance. More than 30 years ago, Mia's biological mother had an evil thought and secretly swapped my mother and her, inadvertently exchanging their lives. Now their lives are out of place. Yet Mia still wants to continue occupying my mother's identity. Mr. James quickly snatched the microphone from me. But it was already too late. The guests immediately erupted. Grandpa James and David Scott both changed their expressions. After the banquet, I conveniently packed up evidence of Mia's schemes against my mother and forwarded it to Grandpa James. This was uncovered by a private detective I hired with 16 years' worth of my own accumulated pocket money. Grandpa James was furious. And this was all within my expectations. I found out that Grandpa James values blood ties the most. Now he knows that Mia is a wild child of unknown origin. And Sarah is just a brat with no blood relation to his James family. In just 1 hour, lawyers were arranged to force Mia to surrender the James family shares and be expelled from the James family registry. The marriage alliance between the James and Scott families was personally established by Grandpa James and Old Master Scott when my mother was still in the womb. David Scott was raised personally by Old Master Scott, a pure mama's boy through and through. For marrying a woman not chosen by Old Master Scott, Mia's expression also changed. Half a month later, he divorced her. As for James and his wife, and Jack, their actions of disregarding blood ties and selling James family shares cheaply to outsiders completely lost them James's grandfather's trust, having lost their power to control the James family group. They could only receive tens of thousands in living expenses from the trust company each month. Mia, on the other hand, lost everything and resented my mother and me. Driven by evil thoughts, she approached my father again. I looked at the photos sent to me by the private investigator, and immediately forwarded them to Grandpa James. I decided to make things a bit more challenging for Grandpa James. 70 years old is the age to strive and fight. Grandpa James didn't disappoint me. He immediately sent Mia to the police station. But this matter wasn't a big deal. So Mia could only be detained for 10 days to half a month. Grandpa James then arranged for someone to release Mia's negative publicity. The older the ginger, the spicier it gets. By the time she reappeared, her reputation was already in ruins. My father, having lost all his money, harbored wicked thoughts and blackmailed Mia for money using her secrets. When Mia refused, my father flew into a rage out of humiliation and violently attacked her, accidentally killing her in the process. My father was sentenced to life imprisonment for involuntary manslaughter. The James family, however, was already overwhelmed, because Grandpa James not only valued blood ties but also heavily favored girls over boys. He only had one son, Mr. James, and had always regretted not having a daughter. Finally, he had a granddaughter, from childhood till now, always cherished, only to find out it was all a lie. Mr. James and his family conspired to keep me in the dark. The James family is now searching everywhere for my mother and me, trying to use us to regain Grandpa James's trust. My mom and I were eating barbecue on the large balcony of our new house. My phone suddenly vibrated a few times. Grandpa James, sweetie, do you want to come over next weekend? Weren't you clamoring for barbecue? Grandpa will eat barbecue with you. TSK, regarding Mia's matter, Grandpa James had already figured out that I was the one who brought it to David Scott and his attention. Otherwise, the James family would keep it hidden from them forever. But the patriarch of the James family had seen it all and quickly realized that the whole scheme was my doing. So Grandpa James began actively persuading me to learn business by his side, even promising to pass the James family conglomerate to me. I refused. I even think this old man is poisonous. More toxic than kidney beans, I replied, not going. Looking down again, there was an extra piece of grilled meat in my bowl, the first piece of grilled meat. My mom would always give it to me. I looked at my mom, my eyes blurring once again. My mom was so startled by me that she was at a loss. Julia, what's wrong? Did the smoke get to you? Mom will blow on it for you. I hugged my mom tightly and gave her a big, loud kiss on the cheek. MS, Lola, let me be your mom in the next life. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.